as protesters demanding a ceasefire continue all across the country. This group in New York City originally began their march safely on the sidewalks, but eventually blocked a busy street holding fake babies, shaking baby rattlers. And as the rattlesnake sounds did absolutely nothing, the NYPD brought out this weird AI-sounding warning.
If you do so voluntarily, no charges will be placed against you. If you remain in the roadway and refuse to use the available sidewalk, you will be subject to arrest.
But this Mother of the Year candidate brought her actual baby into the middle of the streets while she cosplayed someone actually accomplishing something.
Take a step back.
Now, the original poster stated that the man with the skateboard taking the baby is actually the father, so I'll never understand what goes through the head of someone that thinks bringing their baby to a dangerous protest in the middle of the street somehow makes their point more important. Now, I do understand that Biden in particular might pause if he saw a baby in the protest, but he's nowhere near this street in New York City, so she backpacked her baby into danger for absolutely nothing, not to mention the fact that the dad was too busy skateboarding to stop this from happening, so apparently they both were okay with using the baby as a prop in yet another useless protest. As the president has constantly made empty promises between stops at ice cream shops.
We're close. We're not done yet. And my hope is by next Monday, we'll have a ceasefire.
But when he sees these ceasefire protests with the trans flag oddly in the stack, apparently all President Pander can offer for their efforts is to use his power as POTUS to turn Easter Sunday into the Transgender Day of Visibility for 2024, making countless hours of ceasefire activists blocking traffic essentially all for nothing. And as I've said before, I somewhat even agree with some of these protesters' intentions. I too don't like it when my tax dollars fund the shelling of civilians overseas over a conflict that the majority of Americans don't fully understand, and that's either through direct payments out my bank account or through inflation so bad that an order of french fries is over $5 now. I'm just irritated at the idea that people believe blocking the streets is somehow going to suddenly make our politicians turn away from making millions off of funding overseas conflict. But how exactly could our society stop protesters from deploying their unemployed behaviors into our streets? Well, remember how there used to constantly be stories of oil protesters annoying commuters, so much that they nearly lost their hands in their efforts? Well, it appears their local coppers finally started arresting them en masse, even arresting them at later dates after they've been identified.
You've been identified as someone who wants to come on. You're under arrest for burglary.
Something has come to light which we have to investigate. I can't give you any more details, I'm afraid.
This is apparently the response that happens.
We just sit down.
And from the activists' social media accounts, it appears these charges are actually sticking, and they're facing years in prison where other activists actually ended themselves while serving their sentence. So how quickly did these street protesters cease after the police finally took it seriously? Because the planet keeps on being polluted at the same, if not worse rates. But somehow, the oil activists suddenly know not to take out their frustrations with having too much free time on their hands on random citizens just trying to drive to work. And sadly, all across America, we have the same issue with our different but equally useless protests blocking our roads. And I have a feeling that if our coppers use the same tactics, that is, just enforcing our existing laws, these activists would quickly move on. Now, I have no problem with peaceful, law-abiding protests, but none of this using your baby to block the street stuff. I believe the judge needs to throw the book at her to make a firm statement against these antics, but unfortunately, this is New York City, where apparently a serial offender can randomly break a 57-year-old woman's jaw in the street and immediately be released without bail. So I show you all this from the outside looking in, hoping they can fix this rat-infested island that used to be an American city. But unfortunately, no amount of snakes could eradicate these rodents, which oddly enough, New York City in 2024 looks exactly like if Netflix rebooted Escape from New York from 1981. So if you appreciate my concise, lighthearted commentary on the tragic status that is today's reality, hopefully I've earned your subscription. Then go check out the video on how they finally arrested the random attacker in New York City, but he was somehow worse than we imagined.